My name is Rowlands. I'm a nutritional balancing practitioner, and in this video I'm going to talk about the importance of doing hair mineral analysis retests on a nutritional balancing program. The past few videos there's been kind of an ongoing theme, which is, what happens when a person starts a nutritional balancing program and why sometimes they quit. So the importance of doing retests is one of the reasons why a lot of people stop the program, because they're feeling worse for whatever reason. So this is a video that kind of expands on the previous two videos that I've done on why people stop and troubleshooting a nutritional balancing program. Now, what's interesting is that I feel a lot of practitioners and even some clients, there's a slight issue with doing retests or asking for retests, because sometimes as a practitioner there's a little bit of guilt, maybe you're worried about asking for retests because so many people have had difficulties with their health over the years, and often they've spent thousands and thousands of pounds on their health. So asking for retests every 3 to 6 months can seem like a bit of a burden, but in reality it's really important to do hair analysis retests. Mainly because you could actually be getting worse, unfortunately, if you're on a program that's not suiting your body chemistry anymore. So in reality, when you think about costs, it's actually more cost effective to get a retest rather than wasting your time doing something and buying supplements and doing various procedures, etc. This actually can be making your health condition worse, because the program has changed your body chemistry and now it's time for you to readjust things and keep moving forwards. For me personally, I didn't really understand the importance of doing retests in the beginning of the program. Now I understand it's absolutely critical to do regular retests, because body chemistry can shift so much overnight, and it's really important to keep your body chemistry as evenly balanced as possible. It's a little bit like the torque on a car or a motorbike. There's like this balance point. We call it vitality, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And that's what we want to be hitting on the nutritional balancing program, to give the person this even vitality and adaptive energy throughout. And doing retests really is the only way that you can see on deep levels where a person's at and how they should be moving forwards. So what happens with a nutritional balancing program and what happens with the body is the body kind of adapts and creates layers upon layers of different things: infections, chemicals, toxins, nutrient deficiencies, etc. And you'll find that when you're doing a nutritional balancing program, especially for anyone that's suffering from things like brain fog or derealization, they'll realize that these problems are actually built up on layers and layers and layers: sugar, candida, parasites, chemicals, brain toxicity, thoughts, traumas, etc. And you'll find that as you uncover a layer, although your derealization, brain fog improves, it doesn't necessarily go away completely, and that's because the body is built up in layers, and that goes for a lot of other different issues in the body as well. So as you start a nutrition balancing program, this program has been developed over 40 years. It's been refined over the years. By looking at hair analysis tests, by looking at thousands of them, you can figure out what's best for specific patterns and specific people. Therefore, you create a more powerful program which shifts body chemistry much quicker than what it did, say, even 5 years ago, and definitely 10 years ago. Another issue is that people tend to be more sicker these days, so their body chemistry tends to shift around quite often, quite quick. So that's the main thing, is we're wanting to see what layer is underneath. We're wanting to unwind the layers, and by unwinding the layers you do retests to see how your body chemistry shifted, because there's a new layer that's going to surface, and that layer needs to be dealt with in a specific manner by changing supplements, by talking to the person because they might have certain traumas, etc. And really it's the only way to see on a deep level how a person's moving forward. A lot of the times people can do some guesswork, whether a person's in fast oxidation or slow oxidation, whether someone's releasing copper, but you don't really fully know completely without doing a retest, because it's set in stone scientific values that you can work on, and really it's the only way to assess that. You can unfortunately worsen as a result of not doing retests. I'll give you a quick example. If you are a slow oxidizer, you will be given a supplement called Megapan usually, and this is a B complex supplement used to increase your oxidation rate. Now, if your oxidation rate would switch from slow to fast oxidation, a B complex is going to make you actually feel worse. It's going to make you feel more anxious. It's going to be detrimental to the program. Another example is the kind of opposite of that. If your oxidation rate is slowed down, it can make you feel incredibly depressed, sometimes suicidal, and obviously people think they're getting worse when in reality there's been a shift in body chemistry that can actually easily be rectified by doing a retest, or even by speaking to a practitioner if you've done a retest quite recently, and maybe a few weeks back. You can speak to a practitioner and they can deal with it more over the phone, but a retest is the only way really to see at a deep level what's actually going off. So yeah, if a toxin's released, for example, so a certain toxin can be released from the body, it could stimulate the adrenal glands, for example, and it can cause that person to go into fast oxidation temporarily. Then we would need to switch around the supplementation in order to keep that person balanced, in order to keep the torque of the body, the adaptive energy, moving forward at a good pace. Moving on from that, similar is safety. We want to be as safe as possible in the nutrition balancing program. It's kind of one of the mottos of nutritional balancing is safety. So we want to be knowing, is a person improving, is a person worsening, or is there an issue where a person's not really moving forwards too well, and that needs to be dealt with. It could be a lifestyle issue, a relationship, or the person's just not doing a simple thing like not drinking enough water, for example, and that can be kind of dealt with by looking at a retest and speaking to the person involved. Another reason why retesting is important is to maintain a high vitality, maximising energy. I've kind of touched on this a little bit. What we're kind of doing in the nutritional balancing program is ensuring the oxidation rate is really well balanced. When that's balanced, that's when a person feels the best, that's when the body's running its best. A good way to look at it is a little bit like a motorway, or if you're American, a highway. Someone in slow oxidation feels like they're in the slow lane of a motorway. You can get a motorway that's like 7 lanes long. Some people are like extreme slow, like really in the slow lane. Imagine being in that car, you've got cars whizzing past you. You do feel anxious because everything's going around quick. You feel slow, you feel depressed because you can't be as quick as the other kind of cars on the motorway, and that's a good way of looking at it. The opposite of that is fast oxidation, and a lot of people, including myself, makes the mistake of thinking that fast oxidation is actually where we want to be. That's actually untrue. We don't want to be in fast oxidation. That can cause a lot of problems as well. Imagine being in the fast lane and you're going at 100 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour. Everyone else is going around slower, but your body's stuck in 10th gear. It's just wound up, it's anxious, it's irritable. It's not nice really to be in fast oxidation, and often that's what it feels like when you're in fast oxidation. I've experienced that. I made the mistake earlier on in the program to think that actually fast oxidation was where I wanted to be. When I got into fast oxidation, I quickly realised it's actually not where I want to be at all. So obviously the best oxidation really is kind of one in the middle. There is an oxidation type called mixed, which we can see on a hair analysis test. It's where the body doesn't really know whether it's fast or slow. Ideally we want to be kind of mild slow. That's kind of where we're aiming for generally. There is something called a true fast oxidizer, but it's very, very rare. But mild slow is kind of a good aim for the oxidation rate. When you're in mild slow oxidation, you've got energy, but you're quite relaxed, you're not anxious, you're not irritable. When the body needs to move into fast oxidation, it can kind of switch it on. Maybe if you're going through something stressful, or a busy commute to work, or you've gone for a bit of exercise, whatever, the body can kind of switch into fast a little bit, fast metabolism, deal with that, and then switch back off to slow. The people in fast struggle to switch it off. The people in slow struggle to speed it up. So it's about safety. We don't want people in the slow lane. We definitely don't want people in the extreme slow lane, and we don't want people in the extreme fast lane. And that can change if you're in a nutrition balancing program, because one of the main aims of the program is to make sure that you're kind of in the middle. Other things is addressing changes in people's life. That's why it's so important to do retests. It's all right following the nutritional balancing program, but your body's chemistry is going to change if there's an external factor that's causing overwhelming stress. It could be a relationship problem, it could be a divorce, it could be an accident, it could be a work-related issue, it could be a school-related problem, and that's something that will shift your body chemistry because you're under certain amounts of stress. And retesting allows us to see that. We can see lifestyle stress issues, we can speak to the person about them, we can change around the supplementation to deal with that in the present moment, and it helps them move forward in a much more safer, wholesome way, rather than, you know, a person feeling worse and blaming it on the nutritional balancing program when in reality they're actually going through something extremely stressful which is causing their body chemistry to shift regardless of being on a nutritional balancing program. Sometimes we'll get people come to practitioners with, they've got really confusing or puzzling symptoms, and sometimes you just don't know where it's come from. It might be pain, it might be all of a sudden getting low blood sugar problems, extreme fatigue, and sometimes it can get a little bit confusing. So doing a retest is a really good way of understanding these puzzling symptoms that can be causing problems, both from the perspective of a person doing the program and from a practitioner's perspective. So it's really important to try and do retests to kind of overcome any puzzling symptoms that you might have got. Another thing is addressing latent and subclinical health conditions. This is an interesting one. So basically what that means is a lot of people have kind of dormant infections, dormant kind of subclinical conditions that are not really surfacing. Sometimes people are not even aware of them. And when you're doing the program, when the body's increasing its adaptive energy, increasing its vitality, these infections will sometimes flare up in the body, and that can cause a drastic shift in body chemistry. As I say, often people are not even aware of these infections. They could be in the ear, they could be in the mouth, somewhere in the body, and that can kind of create a big shift that obviously needs to be dealt with appropriately, and the best way to do it is getting a retest. And finally, I think this is probably one of the most important, is just it's just a good way of keeping in touch with your practitioner. It's important not to underestimate your practitioner. It's unfortunate sometimes I'll get people who are on the program for 6 months and they'll say, oh, I know enough about the nutrition balancing program now, I just want cheap retests, or I don't need any retests, I don't need to keep up with you or whatever. Nutrition balancing is not a do-it-yourself program. I can assure you now. There's been times when I was like, yeah, I know everything, I don't need to know any anymore, and believe me, you'll probably be in for a bit of a shock. It is nice every 3 to 6 months to check up with people, to talk about things. Often there's probably experiences that you've not even heard me talk about in a nutrition balancing program, but actually when I get someone talking about their problems on a retest, it's like, I used to be in that problem, I used to have that problem too, this is how I dealt with it. It's just good to get things off your chest sometimes to your practitioner, as a healthy way to check in, all these different things. And it's nice. Sure, it's nice as a practitioner for me to hear changes. It's actually nice for a client to come to me and say, you know what, Lewis, I'm feeling worse. And it's like, I can understand why you're feeling worse. Your retest showing this, and this, and it's nice for people to get that encouragement again. To you can see their light shine up again, because actually they think they're getting worse, but in reality, I know they're not. I can see it from a different perspective. And that's just a nice way of keeping in touch as well. So I hope that's helped you a lot. I know it's an issue for a lot of people regarding costs, etc. Hopefully you understand that if you're not doing retests, you could potentially be getting worse, and on a cost basis you're probably wasting money rather than using it to kind of push you forward in a more effective manner. Alright guys, if you'd like to start a nutrition balancing program or if you've got any questions, please send an email to me, Lewis at Deep